Hey, friends. Welcome to just another amazing opportunity to speak with Molly Roth. We're going to be talking about really thriving through the holidays and some key strategies that, maybe you haven't thought of to really not only sticking to your goals, but entering into this holiday season with the right mindset. What do you think, Molly?
Absolutely. I think for a lot of people, the holidays can be very difficult for a lot of different reasons, whether that's you're trying to stick to health goals or, you're just have some tough family dynamics. I think it can definitely be a time of year that a lot of people struggle with.
Yes, 100% agree. I know it's the first thing I thought about. I'm like, where am I going to go I'm like, that's the first thing. The holidays come up. Your family starts asking, what are the plans? What are the things that are going to come up? And at that same time, maybe you're at this point of your fitness goal where you have set some goals for yourself. You set some expectations for yourself, or maybe factors entering into this holiday season. So that's kind of where we want to give you some strategies to enter with some clarity, and maybe grounding yourself on your goal still.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So I mean, the first thing I think about, okay, what's the first thing that happens when Thanksgiving happens, right? You plans of how to get there, and then you start figuring out where you are going to be celebrating this event. And the first thing you think about is the food, right? The food and the celebration. And I don't know about you, but for me, whenever I'm in a high stress situation, I tend to cope with food and not the most healthiest foods, right?
Absolutely. And I think too, just the normal Thanksgiving dinner, isn't always the healthiest option. A lot of us kind of sacrifice quality for convenience. So a lot of stuff is store bought, pre made, maybe is kind of quick, easy ingredients that, we don't really know what quite is in it. And can also be an area where if we're stressed, we may trip up on our goals, right? We may go for the sweet cake or pies when really maybe that's something that we need to be a little mindful about.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. I mean, I think stress holidays as well. Like I was kind of saying, when it comes to food, we kind of cope in our different ways. For me at the time is food. So, I'm not only in the stressful situation trying to figure out if I'm going to have enough for everybody, or then I'm also just trying to maybe stick to my goal. And then those outside influences, like you're like, maybe you haven't shared that goal with the people around you. So you don't want to, in some cultures, when you say no to something, it's offensive. And you might be entering into your family like you're like, grandma made this pie just for you, but it's off track. What are some did you think there that I can, healthily set maybe a boundary, but stay on the goal as well?
Yeah, I think one great idea that I've been talking about with my family is for each of us to bring our favorite meal or favorite food item, or something that we just enjoy eating to share with our family. And I think if you are just trying to give up processed foods or, eat less sugar, this can just be a great opportunity to stay on your goals while also sharing some of this healthier food options with your family. And then you're also not feeling tempted to, eat food that maybe you wouldn't normally eat or are trying to stay away from.
Man, I really love that strategy, and it really makes me think of getting back of what really Thanksgiving was about. It really wasn't just about the turkey. It was really about bringing a collective group of people and things that they enjoy and then sharing them with each other. So I really love that foundation that you're kind of going back to those roots of what really is Thanksgiving about.
Absolutely. And in my family, I have never been a big fan of Thanksgiving food. Like when I think about the food I'm thankful for, it's not turkey, it's not stuffing, it's not cranberry sauce. I do like mashed potatoes, but like those aren't foods I would normally eat and really enjoy on a daily basis. Like I don't look forward to those foods. And so switching the flip, kind of switching the flip and going for maybe foods that you would actually really love, right? And foods that feel good to your body and that get me excited. Like I'm thinking about bringing pizza stuffed peppers to my family because they're whole foods, they're delicious, but also I get to share this with my family. And then maybe they decide, oh, wow, I want to start making some of these recipes too. And just kind of has this like compound effect. Um, and I think we can just shift our mindset of Thanksgiving having to be a certain way, it has to be certain foods to no, this is just, I get to share a meal with people that I really love and care about. And, how can I just make that the focus of this day versus, oh, I have to do the turkey and it has to turn out this way and it has to have these sides. And it kind of sidetracks the whole day and the whole purpose of Thanksgiving.
Man, I love that strategy. And I love that strategy that you're saying, like, hey, you know what? It's that ripple effect that you can have by just bringing that healthier option. But it's really that gift of giving something that you enjoy as well, right? Because like you said, I got to be honest, when it comes to Thanksgiving, I'm not thinking about the turkey either. One year, I'll specifically remember I had the stress of making this turkey. And everybody's like, we want to smoke turkey. I'm like, great. So not only do I have to cook a turkey, I've never cooked before, I had to smoke this turkey. Well, long story short, if you've ever smoked anything, you're watching this fire day and night, but you can't open it because if you open it, you let the smoke out. So this turkey, it's like, I don't know if you've seen the Griswolds where this turkey is just burnt black. I mean, it was horrible, but it made me think of like, you know what? Look at all this stress I put on myself to do something that we need, that we thought we needed, right?
Yeah.
You could have easily.
Yeah. Well, and I think you just nailed it on the head. I mean, it's the stress too. Like that's a huge piece of it is, we've made this holiday very stressful, just like, Christmas and, like sometimes even 4th of July, like some of these holidays become so stressful because of the expectations. And what if we could put different expectations on this holiday that it's not about having the turkey, it's not about having these sides, but having the focus being I just want to have a nice meal with my family or with people I don't normally get to share food with or share time with, and then I think with the added layer of bringing your own, meal or, something recipe that you've cooked, it's like you are also sharing with them what makes you thankful and what makes you, kind of tap into gratitude. And what a wonderful opportunity to get to kind of combine all of those things with, people you love, and make it so that feeling thankful isn't something you have to force during that day, but you're already like in that energy of thankfulness.
Man, I love that. I love how you talked about just stepping into gratitude and really making that definitive. Like you said, it's so easy what it should look like, what expectations, or what maybe what Thanksgiving is to look like, Like you said, I mean, I don't know who's just eating a bowl of cranberry sauce, but I'm pretty sure I never touched that stuff. I'm not gonna lie. But there's so many things like you talked about right there that we're just trying to live up to these expectations that aren't really serving us. And I think it's as you become that person in your life that starts to make those decisions, I think it's honestly like it's such an empowering moment when you're like, you know what? Thanksgiving is sharing and sitting around our family. I don't know about you, but sitting and down at the table isn't something that normally gets to happen with every single person. So making this moment so much bigger than just about food, but making it about coming together and sharing, I love that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's definitely something that's missing from our modern families is people just don't really sit down to have meals anymore. You go to a restaurant and 90% of people are on their devices, right? They're totally checked out, they're not present, and I think that's like another thing, another tip is how can we be more present with these people that we don't really get to spend a lot of time with, and that's where the intention that I want to be present with these people, and finding ways to eliminate distractions, so maybe collecting everyone's cell phone, and putting it in a little box before the meal. So nobody's like checking their phone or pulling their phone out or, the temptation isn't there anymore.
Really love that strategy because you're like most people deep. You're gonna check, you know, media or scroll on social media. But I love that strategy of setting the intention to remove the distractions. Not just hoping you're going to have those moments. I think that's a great strategy, like removing the phone. For me, kind of something I like to do is add a board game, a game aspect, something that we can all enjoy. Like who's last time you played a board game? Usually rainy days, right? But a game where we can all interact. Maybe it's like charades or just one of those fun games that really gets everybody laughing and just interacting without having maybe pull the entertainment aspect.
Absolutely. I love that idea. And I think that also play is a way to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which, if you do this after a meal or even before a meal, you're going to digest your food better. So I think even just in, the
Oh,
nutrition and health world, that, being in a playful state, being in a calmer state is only going to serve you, and it's going to help mitigate stress, right? You're going to help your body feel less stressed when you're in a playful state. So a board game, some families like to do charades and do, those kind of games. Even watching like a funny movie can be, just a great way to connect. And I know a lot of it's going to depend on where you live. For some people, they can go outside and be more active during Thanksgiving because they live in an area that doesn't get cold. And then other people, they're kind of limited to indoor activities. A group walk, I know it sounds really weird. That could even be just a great way to kind of activate that parasympathetic state after a meal. That's also going to help with your blood sugar regulation. There's studies that are like a 10-minute walk after a meal can actually help your blood sugar from spiking. So going on a walk can kind of, check a lot of different boxes and really help, just with stress and digestion and all of that.
love that. I love that. That's a great, that's an easy way to get everything there from the ovens and everything being baked because it's going to help your metabolism. I really love something you said there is really setting that intention. You gave us that strategy about, how maybe collecting the phones. Is there any other ideas or little tips that you can, I love how can we set the intention when would you safely in a place where you're finding a whole bunch of people with a bunch of different, places? How would you kind of implement that?
Yeah. So ways that we can kind of handle stress in an intentional kind of state of mind. One thing I'm thinking about is holidays are always, geared towards alcohol, like Thanksgiving is one of those holidays where it's almost expected that people are going to drink a little too much, maybe even watch a game and drink a little too much beer. And if you're really kind of getting serious about your health goals, you might bring some alcohol alternatives like a mocktail or a different kind of beverage, just so that, you're already setting the intention that the focus of this meal is not going to be, just indulging in everything, but that you can still kind of participate, without having to like lose track of all of your goals. So that could also be something you can share with your family. There's tons of companies that do mocktails now. You can get at your local grocery store. Here in Texas, Kin Euphorics is a really cool brand that has these little kind of little mocktail cans. But there's ones that have like rosé, have like, margaritas. And of course, there's like the non-alcoholic beers and everything like that. But that in itself can kind of take, the alcohol off the table, because alcohol, if is essentially sugar and is going to make you kind of continue to crave more and more sugar. And also it's going to kind of like dull your inhibitions, whereas you would normally maybe not reach for that like third slice of pie. When you've been drinking, you're like, yeah, I want a third slice of pie. That sounds great. So it's kind of a way for you to take back control while also not sacrificing, indulging in a way, sharing alcohol, a drink, but not having to actually have the alcohol. So that might be one kind of intentional way you can mitigate that stress, but also stick to your goals and kind of hold on to control over your inhibitions.
Mm, I love that. So you're saying I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, perfect. So I'm making that excuse. I'm like the alcohol. Sorry. So I really love that strategy, and I love the. I feel like it really empowers you what you said right there because it's a lot of choices that we make, and I think many times we find ourselves in situations where we almost make the things that are opposite of what we truly need for ourselves. But not necessarily to pull me out of the game, but I can still enjoy myself, but in healthier alternative ways. And I love that you talked about, there's mocktails and there's these things like, hey, Sam, I have these goals and I don't want to feel left out. Because I think one of our greatest human needs is, to avoid season, but still, stick on my goals at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, I think alcohol in itself is a very social, it's a social drink. And that is a lot of ways adults connect is, over a beer or a glass of wine. And so it's not to rob you of that experience, but finding ways that you can stick with your goals, still be a part of the group, feeling like you're still kind of checking that box and you're still a part of things, without just sitting there with like a glass of water and feeling like everyone else is getting to have, a fun drink or, their glass of wine or a beer. I know for me personally, I haven't always been into cooking. I haven't always been into uh, whole foods or healthy living. And that, on my Instagram, I'm always just posting recipes that, are easy for just the average person because I don't consider myself to be like a gourmet cook. I don't have any cooking training. And so I'm put my whole goal in like posting recipes on my Instagram is so it's relatable. So people can see that anyone can make these small little shifts in the way that they cook and the way that they approach food. And I think that if we can do that, it's going to be more sustainable over time. Like I experimented with making pumpkin pie and I made it all out of whole ingredients. And it was just such an eye opener of like, wow, I can make something delicious and I don't feel like I'm sacrificing. I actually feel good after I eat this and I don't feel like I need to lay down. I don't feel like my head is spinning. I don't feel those reactions I would if I were eating just like a processed pumpkin pie from Costco. And I think if we can shift our mindset when towards food, that food can actually still taste good and be good for our body. I mean, that just changes the game. You never want to go back after you see that there you can feel really good just eating real food and you're not sacrificing flavor or taste or desire, but that there are ways that you can meet those that aren't you're not sacrificing too much.
Yes, 100% agree. Yes, if you're not following Molly on Instagram at Molly Roth Nutrition, you're doing yourself a disservice. There's so many great recipes on there. Like there's these brownies that I make. I make them all the time. And if they're guilty free, I'm like, I'm just gonna eat this whole tray probably.
I mean, but you
But
could
they're so good.
you could eat the whole tray because you know they're all whole ingredients, but also like those brownies I can literally only have a couple because they're so filling, they're so dense, like you literally can't eat more versus if I just get brownies from HEB, I probably could demolish an entire plate and still be hungry afterwards because there's nothing in there that is serving my body and telling me that I'm full because it's all just chemicals and processed sugar. But like a real brownie that's made right, like real ingredients, that instead of using sugar you're using something like honey or maple syrup, your body actually can use those ingredients and you're going to get those signals that you're satiated and full, which is just a completely different experience. I mean, think about going to Thanksgiving and you're eating food that feels good to your body. You're getting those cues early on that you're full. right? You don't feel sluggish afterwards, or that you need to take that nap that a lot they talk about, on Thanksgiving, to take the nap afterwards, but you actually just feel good in your body, and how that could maybe shift how you show up for your family and for your friends. I mean, that would just be a game changer.
Wow. Wow. I really, really love it. I don't know if you caught what Molly said there. She said when you start eating those foods that have those zero, nutrients to them, how your brain responds of not, feeling full. Now, maybe that's like why you can eat the whole bag of chips, because there's no nutritional value. But I love how you said, like, when you start eating these foods that are whole food and things that your body recognizes as nutrients, how you do feel fuller. And it's funny you say that, because like when I eat those, you're right. I can't eat the whole tray, but like I'm quick. I'm like, oh, because so, but it's crazy how why maybe your calorie chemical filled foods, and why can I eat the whole tray?
Yeah. And that is something you can bring to your family this Thanksgiving. You don't have to change everyone's plans, but if you decide to bring something that's maybe just a little bit more whole foods oriented, even if it's a side, like instead of making like the processed mashed potatoes that you get in a box, maybe you choose to like intentionally pick out potatoes, and then you intentionally pick out, butter and milk, and right, and the herbs that you're using to season it, and you actually get to take your time in this process making something that is going to taste delicious. Because I'm sorry, if you've ever made like actual homemade mashed potatoes, there is nothing that compares to that. Like there's no box mashed potatoes that you can make that are going to taste as good as homemade.
Yeah.
And you can do that with anything that you decide to bring for Thanksgiving, but you're also introducing this to the people that you're eating this meal to, and giving them the opportunity to see the difference. So you're going to need to pass that on to the people you're sharing a meal with, which is just powerful. I mean, we have so much power and change and sharing with the people that we love.
Man, I love what you said there. We have so much change when we share with the people we love, and I think that's just a powerful statement. Thanksgiving is about. What is there about? About when you come to. And I love how you said that there's so much power in it. And I think many times we give that power away, like you said, and we give it so much away when it comes to new thing that matters the most. But I love really how you brought that mind and food connection in there, because you find yourself stressing yourself out with processed food, and then wonder why you're a little bit more, why you just keep overindulging. But I love the fact that you say, when I start to really make that, start to think those healthier choices, those healthier decisions, not only for me, but for the people around me, how that simple shift in power we can bring to that situation. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that love just compounds when we share it with others. And I mean, when it comes to food, you can really taste the love in the food, And I don't know about you, but like when I eat food that's processed, like it doesn't hit the same way as food that I know I've made by hand, or others have made, by hand for me. It's just you can taste it and in the food. And it's just so powerful to share a meal where everything is like infused with that love. I think it just shifts the energy of the entire meal.
Yes, I 100% agree. Like some people, food has all the flavor, right? But I 100% agree that when people bring that, that is a great way to love. I love that you added love as an aspect in there, because that's truly what giving is about, and what Thanksgiving is about. It's really about coming together and sharing that love. And I love that strategy you gave at the beginning of what you and your family are implementing this year, because I believe it really gets back to the sharing aspect of Thanksgiving, but not only removing the stress aspect as well. Because when it comes to holiday, it's really, it's everybody's, you know, coming together, someone else's expectation. But when you make this something where we're gonna just share and bring your best dish, something that not only you like, but that you're willing to share with others. And I love that you're making the decision to bring your best meal. And because I think that's what really it's about. It's really sharing that love of this is my favorite thing and I want to share it with you. It's such a powerful statement in itself.
Yeah. Well, and it starts with you, right? It's that self-love that then gets spread outward, and I think when we are loving ourselves, then we are filling our cup up and we have more to give to others. And just what a great modeling of behavior. And then also just what a great way to show the people around us that we love them. And I think we forget that. I think that holidays in general can be almost self-sacrificing, right? That's the
Mm.
expectation, is there's a self-sacrificing aspect to it. But honestly, if we could just shift the perspective to, I'm going to love myself in this holiday and then I'm going to give from that place, we would probably make such different decisions on how we are approaching gifts and the get-togethers that we're choosing to go to, and parties. I think it would shift a lot for people, but we don't normally think about holidays as I'm going to love myself. A lot of times it's going to be, oh, okay, I know I'm going to this event and I'm going to have to sacrifice and I'm going to have to, be polite and, drink this and eat this. And so we were kind of not thinking about ourselves, and from that place, we're not going to make the best decisions. From a place of not loving ourselves, we're going to choose the unhealthy options. We're going to choose alcohol. We're going to choose whatever we need to cope, because our system is already telling us that, we're not in a state of love. We haven't loved ourselves first.
Man, wow, that is so powerful. So true. You can see it in your own situation. The analogy you gave, sometimes like we have to do this, and like you said, I don't want to offend them. Like I'll never forget this trip. My friend, he went to Egypt on a trip, and he's like family members, and each house has what we would consider a Thanksgiving meal at it. And he's like, the hardest thing is like, so if you don't not recognize used to like the Mediterranean diet, it's a very rice heavy. Talking like I go in this building in my Egypt, and they have a bed of rice with like 4 lamb legs. Just he's like, and imagine this room, right? Kind of like Molly was saying, you feel that stress. Like his parents are like, you better eat your food, and so the relatives are like, oh, we haven't seen you in years. They make him a plate, and the plate's like mountain full of food. They want to just dump all this food on him. He's like, he was saying that the first house are like full, so just like, oh, jamming this food on. But it's that he's like, right. It was funny. The reason I say this story is because it's funny. Is like the fourth house food, same lamb leg. And his brother's like, I don't want to eat anymore. They just started crying. Many of us feel that same, trying to please others, but not really caring for ourselves. And I love that aspect that you said, because it's so important. It's so easily given away because it's so socially acceptable to. This is your family. You're supposed to put yourself last. I love. I can still honoring myself and honoring you.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it has to start with honoring ourselves, because otherwise it's not even coming from a genuine place. I think anything that requires us to sacrifice loving ourselves is not authentic, right? Is not going to be aligned with who we are. And there are cultural differences, definitely cultures where, you're required to kind of clean your plate. But I think we can also build in those boundaries, like you were saying, and, check in with ourselves first on what feels good, what feels right, and then see where there's room for compromise. Because a lot of times we're not even asking ourselves how we feel about something. We're just overriding, our sensations and what our body is telling us, because we want to please the people around us. But it should start with us, because we are the only ones that know our internal experience. Nobody else is going to know unless we, speak up and we share, so focusing on loving ourselves first in whatever way that looks. For some families, it may be we don't spend time together during the holidays because maybe that's just not a healthy dynamic. But if I'm checking in with myself first and making sure I am taking care of me first, I'm going to make better decisions when it comes to holidays and parties and gifts and everything that surrounds the holidays.
Man, I really love that. I love what you said there. So I think it's something so important and underutilized, and we can use it in any daily situation. Like you can use this right now. I love something you said. You said checking in with of life is just really identifying where you're at, but most importantly, where you want to be. Are there any key strategies, Mala, that you a great way for somebody that's maybe like, you know what, how would I check with myself? What are some great questions or some shit out there?
Yeah. I think the first thing that has to happen is we have to be aware of our internal experience. And so that requires slowing down a bit. That requires that we are not in a fight or flight sympathetic response. So, finding a quiet place, making sure you're in a safe space, making sure you don't have distractions. For some people, that may even be going on a walk. Being outside, you have so many different cues and reminders of safety that are activating your five senses in your body. So, first and foremost, getting grounded, getting centered, quieting your brain a bit. And it doesn't have to be meditation. For a lot of people, that's really difficult to get into a meditative state, but to just get your nervous system into a calmer state. And if you're not sure if your nervous system is calm, you could ask yourself, do I feel safe in this moment?
Mhm.
You can also check your heart rate to see what your resting heart rate is. You can just, do the fingers on the wrist. You can take some deep breaths and making sure that your breathing is deep and it's not like those shallow kind of short breaths. And then once you're kind of in that regulated state, is asking yourself, these are the words I've been told that really work for me. When it comes to anything I'm trying to decide what I want to do, I ask myself, does this feel like shackles on or shackles off? And so what that means is, does this thing that I'm asking myself if I want to do or participate in, does it make me feel like shackles on, which is constricted, almost like you think of like a prisoner obligation? Often it makes you feel really heavy. You're kind of like, ugh, that feeling is not something that your body is telling you it wants to do. And so if something is giving you that feeling, that to me is a no. And then shackles off is freedom, abundance. You're going to feel light in your body. You're going to feel excitement, energy, right? It's like the exact opposite. It's almost like, a burst of a star, right? Or like a sunburst, right? It feels really expansive and abundant. And so to me, that is a yes. And so not everything is going to be a yes or no, but most of the time it is, because I'm just going to be checking in with myself, asking myself, do I really want to do this thing? If it's a shackles on, I'm probably not going to do it unless I have to do it, right? And then if I have to do it, I'm going to find a way that I can still feel the shackles off even in doing that thing. So like maybe you have to go to Thanksgiving because whatever reason, right? You just have to go. So, how can I find ways to create a shackles off experience while in Thanksgiving? So, maybe that's going to be, I'm going to take breaks during this Thanksgiving dinner and go on a walk, call a friend, maybe even do like a little guided meditation or some deep breathing. Maybe I'm going to make the intention that I'm going to keep my opinions to myself during Thanksgiving. And that's going to be the best way that I can have the shackles off feeling. Maybe it's going to be, I'm going to choose nutritious food. I'm going to not drink alcohol. I'm going to bring my own kind of alcohol substitute. But that's just like one example, right, of how we can still be taking care of ourselves, even when our body's telling us we really don't want to do this thing. But the more you build that muscle of awareness, you're not going to have to go through a whole thing to feel it. It'll just be there. But to first get there, you have to quiet your body down first, ask those questions, and then really check into how your body's responding, if it feels like the shackles on or shackles off. And to me, those words just seem kind of the easiest to really feel into. And there may be some different words that work for you, but for me, those are very tangible feelings. I'm like, oh yeah, that definitely feels like a shackles on. I feel very like, ugh, that doesn't feel good. And then that definitely feels like a shackles off. I can feel that in my body.
Shackles on, shackles off. And it's so funny when you said that. like those moments, like you can feel that. Like, those moments are like, you got to do this. You're like, oh, everybody has felt that in their lives. But I love the permission I love the permission you give yourself right there. Like, really, and I love how you talked about it being a muscle. And I think it's a muscle that, I love that you really said just slowing down, finding that, white space, but really just asking yourself that question, getting your nervous system down, getting those deep breaths, something that we can all do. But really, I love something you said that's so powerful, because there's always a situation where you can't control. Like, you're like, they're coming to my house. I don't want to do Thanksgiving, and they're coming to my house. And I love what you said there, because you can still you can still find that off moment. You can still create. I think many of us find ourselves in those challenging seasons, like you said, a shackled on season, and we're like, this is it. I'm just gonna be like, huh. But I love how you build for yourself. I think that's so powerful.
Well, and a lot of holidays become obligations for people because they're not giving themselves permission to take care of themselves during the holiday. And maybe it isn't that you don't like Thanksgiving or Christmas, but it's just that you're not taking care of yourself in those holidays. And now it's making you have this association that you're going to have to totally sacrifice everything during this holiday. And, maybe it is just the holiday that you just don't like, but also maybe there's a chance you can do something different for Thanksgiving and Christmas and any of the other holidays you celebrate, and just change your relationship with them. Maybe they end up being times where you actually really look forward and get excited like you were when you were a kid, because you've changed your relationship to the expectations and how you're going to show up, and make the intention that I'm going to take care of myself in this holiday however I need to, and that's going to be okay, and I'm giving permission to all of people who are around me to do the same thing. And then just watch things just feel 10 times different during that day or that season.
Of that, entering in with a new mindset. I mean, who thinks about that? Entering into a new mindset in that holiday, because you're right. It could very well not be you situate with the holiday. Like, I hate the same feeling of, that, like you, Mama, has mentioned earlier, like that shackled on moment. But I love how you said that you can change this. Like, I think that's the most important thing. Obviously, if you're not a kid, you don't really have that much control. But if you're an adult, find yourself in this spiraling circle of, man, I hate the holidays, always a stressful season. I love how you said that you can change your relationship. And I think that's the most powerful that we can make as an adult, right? You can start changing your relationship with your food, change your relationship with the holidays, and find the joy in the moments again.
Absolutely. Finding the joy. And I would argue kids can do this too. They don't have a lot of control, but you can choose how you want to perceive situations. And there's going to be little choices that you're going to have in every moment of that day. So if you're a teenager and you're, having to go and participate in family dinner, but you don't want to be there, there's going to be little choices in that dinner that you're going to have. And let's say, mom says something that really gets under your skin. You can choose to respond in that moment, or you can choose to focus attention on yourself and how that comment made you feel, and taking care of yourself in that moment. And, and just watch kind of each decision that you're making, and being intentional with your choice in those moments. Because a lot of times this does come down to those small moments and those small choices that we made. And even if you're a kid, you can make a different choice, because a lot of times you don't have a lot of choice, and you have to be there, but you can still have that autonomy even in that moment where you're not having a lot of choices.
Man, I think that's the most powerful thing, like you said, is just choose. You can choose how you respond. I think that's a powerful thing right there. I think many of us feel like, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. But I love how you said that, I can make those little choices each and every second. I can choose how others perceive I should respond. And I love that. Finding that safe place for yourself. but not only setting that intention for yourself. I think that's such a powerful decision, especially during the holidays when, you're like, Uncle Steve always gets mad, but Uncle Steve this time has been around the blocks. He can choose how he responds, and so can you choose how you treat him as well.
Yeah, there's a great book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's by Viktor Frankl. And it talks about he was in one of the internment camps during the Holocaust. And he was talking about kind of how he survived that experience. And there was all the people that were around him were dying, and he had no choices. I mean, they weren't being given a lot of food. The conditions were terrible, but he attributes kind of how he made it through that by what he chose to focus on during those experiences. All the other people around him were choosing to focus on death, and there was a lot of fear. And for him, he chose to focus on his wife and just the love that he has for her. And it was just that shift in perspective that he attributes kind of his getting through that experience. And it's a very powerful book, but it really shows you, like, even in dire circumstances where all of your choices have been taken away, you still have a choice. Like, you still have a choice of how you are going to perceive your circumstances. And I think we forget that. We forget that where we focus our attention becomes our intention. And if I want to focus on fear and illness and despair, that is your intention that you are setting for that experience. But just in the flip, if I focus on love and abundance and hope, my intention becomes love, abundance, and hope. And that is powerful, and that will directly impact your physical experience in your life.
Ooh, whoa, that was awesome. Did you just say, so where my attention goes, my intention, where my, can you say that again,
Yeah.
please, just one more time, the people in the back?
So where I put my attention becomes my intention.
Wow, so powerful. I think especially during this holiday season, we all past intention, some things that happen to change. So you're already entering in with these intentions. But I love how you said that right there, that we have choice, that this isn't going to be the, and I can choose joy, I can choose peace, and like you said, choose abundance through this holiday season, realizing that I can make that choice. That's so powerful.
Yeah. And I think all of our decisions and everything in our tangible world, it starts in our mindset and our thoughts. And so if that is where we are really working to make change, we will see it in our tangible world, because before I decided to do the restart program and the sugar detox, I first had to have a thought in a mindset shift of, like, I want to align with a healthier lifestyle. I want to feel better in my body. And then you saw the tangible results of, investing in the restart program and leading people through a sugar detox and doing the sugar detox myself. So same thing with going to a holiday. If I align myself with, this is going, I'm going to focus on love and gratitude and health going into this holiday, season, that is tangibly what I'm going to get if I just keep putting my focus there.
Ooh, man, Molly, that is beautiful, 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 beautiful. And it's such a powerful statement in itself right there. I'm excited because I'm like, I'm choosing joy, peace, and an extra piece of pie. That's what I'm doing. That's my intention this week.
Yes, and don't use the holiday as a reason to also, like, deprive yourself. You're allowed to indulge in all the things that you want to eat. It's just when it gets to that level of, it's not coming from a place of love, that I think it becomes really problematic. So it's a balance. And we talked about that last time of, like, just making small changes that are sustainable, not depriving yourself. The goal isn't to punish yourself. And, food is a way that people come together as a community, and not depriving yourself of that experience too.
Ooh, yes, right there. You heard it. You heard it. I don't get no better than that, you guys. Well, Molly, I know something powerful you talked about there. You talked about opportunity to hear a little bit more about the Restart program?
Yes. So the Restart program is a 5 week, right now it's an online group, and I run them, every month or so. And so you'll learn just kind of why you want to do a sugar detox, because that's ultimately what the program is you do 3 weeks of a sugar detox. But the first week is really setting the intention and education about what we're going to be doing and really getting you prepared for it. And then you're doing 3 weeks of a sugar detox, where then you're learning about what's happening in your body, also learning kind of about fats and proteins and carbohydrates. You're learning about digestion, a bit about blood sugar. So you're really kind of getting an overview of just what is happening in my body when I'm actually going through this detox. And then you have the supportive community kind of going through this experience with you. You've got tons of education. I have tons of recipes that, I've really created to kind of help support this group. And you also have the accountability every week. So I think it's just been really phenomenal to see the changes that people have noticed, because you take a little questionnaire before and after, and just to see kind of the symptoms that people were having before and just how they've shifted to the end, like things that people didn't attribute to sugar and processed foods, like symptoms went away. And one of the main one is just digestion and how they're feeling in their gut and just having less inflammation. So I love this program. I went through it myself, so I could say I know what it feels like. The first week is really tough, but getting to lean on the members of the group was it really helped to get through it. So I know Sam went through it as well. And, if you want to say a couple words of how you felt afterwards.
Yeah, yes, it was truly a game changer for me mentally, physically, and emotionally. I didn't realize, like, my relationship with food was really bad. I'm not even gonna lie. And it really allowed me to find stuff I had no idea. Like, talked about proteins. We learned a lot about nutrition as well. It wasn't just like, do a detox. It was like about why I need to eat these foods. It wasn't just like eat this and that's it. No, it's eat this and this is why you want to eat this. And like she said, that first week was tough, but it was so powerful knowing that I wasn't doing it alone. And that's what really helped me persevere. I'm like, I know I'm not doing this alone, and I know I'm doing it right, because we all feel like trash right now. But it was such a I had been in the wellness industry for such a long time, and nutrition is something honestly I struggled with. Like I could work, but it's just when I really awareness and I got my body reacts to foods has been a game changer for me, and it really removed the guesswork. Again, I'm like, I feel great, and I'm not sacrificing mentally, physically, emotionally. Like I feel just amazing, and I want you to be able to feel that way as well. So that's like why I'm excited to be partnering with Molly, and that she's sharing this, because it's been a game changer for me. So I know it'll be a game changer for you.
Absolutely. And if anyone is just starting off their journey of health and wellness and want somewhere to start, I highly recommend, because so many of our symptoms and issues, and I mean ones you wouldn't even think that are related to sugar, are related to sugar and just processed foods. And in, like, even just like pain in your body, like chronic pain, could be relieved just by cutting off sugar and processed foods. So if you're just starting out, this program is designed for that, and you can go through it as many times as you want. Like I'm probably going to go through it again myself, just to kind of keep digging deeper into health and wellness. So it's a great just kind of starter if you're just kind of starting this journey and wanting some support.
Yes, yes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna Molly's links, our Instagram, Molly Roth, new amazing recipes. Link down to that Restart program as well. I'm super thankful for you guys who joined us. But Molly, any closing words of motivation before if somebody just jumped on in here and is like, just if we leave anybody with a little bit of motivation.
I think the most powerful, and I keep kind of shaving off layers of this too, is just where you put your attention becomes your intention. So literally where your thoughts are driving you, if you think of like driving on a road and your car is your attention, it's like where you decide to look on that road, your car is going to follow. And if you keep going into the metaphorical ditches, it's because you are taking your attention to the ditch, right? And so we want to drive our car forward and clear path. And
Mm.
so where your attention goes, that is where your intention will be. And that's where you're going to drive your car. So just drive the car where you actually want to go. You know, we have control over that.
Wow, that is so beautiful. So, hey, you guys, I'm gonna have all of Molly's links. Make sure you follow her. Make sure you join that restart program, and make sure you share this live with somebody who needs to hear this. You might be entering this holiday season. This is something that definitely everybody is here. I'm super. Y'all take care.